Hello everyone. I'm going to try and do these reviews in a long format again. Why? Because I think it would be more interesting and I'll be trying to include some more series into it. Also, seeing as I'm late every week as it is, I thought to add a bit more production into these. So that being said, let's get started with One Piece. It starts with a double page cover spread of Kaido, King, Queen, Jack, and the Topiropo, which it looks nice. It's what normal color pages are. And the chapter really starts with Yamato escaping the storage room with Momo and Shinobu. One of the Marias spots them and starts reporting it. Yamato plans on going up some stairs, making them more visible, which Shinobu doesn't like, asking if they can go somewhere less visible. Sanji hears the broadcast and has to decide where to go, because Kinemon's group is in the opposite direction of Momo's. He thinks it over, and we see someone call out, "This way." I don't know if it was Sanji or if it was some other character, but we don't see which route he takes. It then cuts to the Perospero Carrot fight, where we see that Perospero is the winner. He taunts Carrot, telling her that her vengeance for Pedro was naive and that if she didn't want to see her friend die, they should have stayed home. He then walks towards the main building, saying that it's time to show these children what the Emperors of the Sea are all about. As he walks, we see Carrot's hand still in a fist, which I'm going to guess that we'll see Carrot again to stop Perospero at a pivotal point. It then cuts to the performance hall, where we see that most of those affected by Ice Oni are starting to fade and lose energy. If they stop moving and fighting, they will revert back into the monster form of Ice Oni. So both sides are desperate to win and get the antidote, but Hyogoro and X-Drake are guarding Chopper as he works on the cure. Hyogoro and X-Drake are too strong for Apu's group to handle, especially as Hyogoro reverted back to his prime days. Hyogoro seemingly came in contact with the Ice Oni plague, and because of it, it extracted all his strength that he had left to the limit. He tells the other Yakuza bosses if Chopper can't finish the medicine before he turns into a monster Ice Oni, to kill him before he fully turns. He also adds that if he were to turn, no one could stop him. The other bosses are hesitant, but they seemingly agree. One of the Kaido samurai leaders decides to test the legend of Hyogoro and gets destroyed by him. Hyogoro then starts to think about all the things he's done and what he didn't do. From wondering what would have happened if he had helped Odin at his prime, to seeing what Odin's retainers could pull off and finding himself an apprentice in Luffy. He thinks of all this while beating down people left and right and believes that the dawn will come to Wano. Queen ends up seeing Hyogoro's strength and tries to take him out when Marco attacks him first. Queen is hurt from the attack. Marco then taunts him to keep his attention on him as King continues his attack against him as well. Marco, however, shows off some serious skill as he faces the two of them and is more or less winning, hitting each of them with strong attacks, though he is starting to look like he's also been taking some hits as well. We see that both Queen and King are getting up and seem relatively okay, as we also see that Perospero spots Marco, and it looks like Marco now has to deal with King, Queen, and Perospero, which isn't good for Marco. The last bit of the chapter is that all those who were infected by Ice Oni are starting to turn into monster forms, and Hyogoro tells one of the bosses to kill him before he turns. We see that the boss is crying as he goes in for the strike. Hyogoro feels he was rewarded by heaven for being able to help in the end. It ends off saying, "Here ends the life of Hyogoro the flower, with no regrets." That's the end of the chapter. It was good. I liked it. The fight between Marco, King, and Queen was great. The Hyogoro last fight was good. We may not have seen the actual final blow, but I don't think he's making it out of this arc alive. Next week, we'll see if Oda actually pulls the trigger on it and kills Hyogoro, or if he had Chopper make it in time to save many of those infected. Also, seeing that Perospero is strong is a sort of twist that I didn't really expect, but I think Carrot will still try and keep fighting to avenge Pedro. A bit of a prediction I have is that I think Carrot will end up either personally or she'll be the main cause of Perospero being killed. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw a lot of the villains and hero characters die in this arc, though I don't believe any of the Straw Hats will die. But knowing One Piece, no one will end up dying. Overall, I'd give this chapter a B. It was good, keeping the fighting moving and showing us that as many victories as the good guys get, the villains get a few as well. Now we're on to My Hero Academia. And the chapter starts with All Might feeling one for all in Deku as he's still unconscious. We see Deku worrying about everyone when we then see that he's standing before the other predecessors who tell him that they need to talk. They begin to explain that One for All was starting to grow rapidly and that because of that growth, the other vestiges were able to take more solid form and even communicate with each other. The battle with All for One seems to allow the vestiges to appear more easily to Deku now, which Bango, the guy whose power was Black Whip, reassures him that he'll still have some privacy. Deku still doesn't have a mouth in the vestige world, but he remembered that he was sort of able to during the battle with All for One, so he tries the same thing, and he did it and it works. He can more or less talk. We then see the fourth predecessor, Hikage Shinmori, who explains that his power is Danger Sense, which is the lightning bolt that Deku kept seeing before he'd know something bad was about to happen, and asks Deku if he knows how he died. Deku knows how old he was when he died, but not the cause, and says he died at 40. The fourth says he died of old age, and explains that he spent his turn with One for All trying to gain as much power, knowing that he couldn't defeat All for One. He spent 18 years doing so before his body started to fail. He figured out what happened because All Might did some research on him and eventually told him through the vestige world. It sort of shows, maybe it was through the shade that is All Might in there. He surmised that having multiple quirks eat away at your life. This stuns Deku, who says that One for All only got stronger after the fourth, and All Might lasted much longer than him. The first explains that when All Might figured out that One for All put a terrible burden on the body, he thought of what made him different from the fourth, and that was that he was quirkless. The first continues, saying that all of the info All Might gained was shared to them because of his shade that is inside of One for All. He says that his brother was right about quirks having their user's essence hardwired into them, and that's how they are there now, but All Might was different. All Might, the only one able to put a piece of his consciousness into One for All, truly making it his. The first then explains that the reason why One for All doesn't quite fit with those who have quirks, and the analogy he used was that those with quirks are a cup full of water. When you add One for All on top of that, the cup begins to break, trying to keep the water in. With All Might, who is quirkless, thus has no water, it becomes the perfect vessel for One for All. He continues saying that it's a twist of fate. This power that must pass from one to the next is meant for those who lack the power from the start. Deku then realizes that because the other's quirks are starting to manifest, he can't pass One for All on to a normal person. Normal meaning someone with a quirk, because they are the norm in their world. Deku is actually seen as bizarre. The first says the quirkless people are all but gone in Deku's time, so Deku will probably be the last wielder of One for All. He also wishes that they could have interacted with the wielders earlier and stopped some of the suffering it caused. The chapter ends with Nana, All Might's master, saying that that's the real issue, before asking Deku if he's able to kill Shigaraki. So that was the chapter. It was fine. Very info heavy, which normally would be a good thing, but for me this chapter was just boring. It's probably just me. I'm a bit burnt out on My Hero at this point. And the more I think on it, the more the story just aggravates me. So I'll still end up reading it because I'm too far in at this point. I'm not going to drop it for nothing. But I'm probably going to not talk about it here because I don't really want to badmouth it, because I know a lot of people still like My Hero and everything, and I do to some degree, but I'm probably not going to cover it because it's just going to be me being slightly negative here. So like I said, the chapter was good. It was fine, and I'd give it a B. Next is Black Clover, and the chapter starts with the elf crew going to see Dryad, the guardian of the elf forest, I think it was Elysium. She's not what they expected, and she's extremely bubbly and joyful, and she already knows what they want and is willing to help them. She then explains to the non-elves, and the elves also help in this explanation, explain what ultimate magic is and how they can acquire it. She continues saying that because of the Heart Kingdom's method of using true magic, which is the arrays, they will be able to learn ultimate magic despite the fact they naturally don't have enough magic to do it. Elves do. It then cuts to the group attacking devils with true magic, super spells, destroying them, the lower tiers. Sally starts gushing over them using arrays and wants to research them later. Noelle wants revenge on Vinica, but everyone stops as we see 2 low-level devils get destroyed by some mid-level devils. We then see that the 4 mid-level devils, and they are monstrous as they taunt everyone. We see a small flashback to Dryad saying that low levels can be taken care of by blasting them with a lot of mana, but mid-level and higher ones are a problem. We then see Luck getting giddy as the mid-levels are about to attack. We then see Luck use his ultimate magic, which is unique to each person. With his ultimate magic, he is able to behead or cut in half all of the mid-level devils in one shot. Whether that keeps them down or not, we'll have to see. Luck then taunts the devils before we see the castle is both burning and freezing, and Luck also senses that there are people that they shouldn't mess with inside of it. As the chapter finishes with Lilith and Nama staring and laughing at an impaled and freezing Noct. That was the chapter. I thought it was good. Seeing everyone in the elf group looking stronger was cool, especially Locke, who already seemingly mastered his ultimate magic and is a monster. But I'm assuming that things aren't going to continue going as smoothly as they have been much longer. Also, with Noct seemingly done for now, I wonder if Asta will be able to face Lilith and Nama alone, and if not, who is going to stop them or any of the other high-level devils that waltz right on through the gate. But overall, I'd give this chapter a B. I thought it was a good chapter showing off more devils. Next up is Mashle, Magic and Muscles. The chapter starts by explaining what Master Canes are, saying that they only choose those with innate talent and bestow blessings upon the wielder. It cuts back to Mash, who starts bleeding, even though he wasn't hit. He asks what happened when Carpaccio says that he is incapable of feeling pain. Mash then sees the guardian angel, who later is called the goddess statue, behind Carpaccio and asks what it is. Carpaccio says it's his special wand. Mash then knees him in the face, saying he doesn't know what that means, but as he's saying that, he gets hit, quote-unquote, in the head. Carpaccio starts explaining what his magic is, which is that he can transfer any damage he takes to his opponent. He then stabs his leg with his knife, but Mash ends up being the one who gets stabbed instead. Carpaccio continues, saying that any and all pain he suffers is absorbed into the wand, and that he doesn't control it. He says that he's never felt pain, but wants to. We see the headmaster, who is intrigued by how talented the current crop of first years are. Carpaccio also says that someone of Mash's level couldn't hurt him, so he wants to finish the fight quickly. So Mash rushes in, but is getting hurt as Carpaccio stabs himself. Mash attacks, but is getting hurt, and Carpaccio thinks the fight is a joke, because Mash is getting hurt by his own attacks. Carpaccio continues saying that a person's fate is determined by the abilities they're born with, and thinks that it's useless to fight against it. He then belittles Finn, saying that he's a disgrace. Mash then surprises everyone by more or less agreeing with Carpaccio, saying that it's smart to quit if it's something you just can't do, and to evaluate oneself to know where one stands, and that to Carpaccio it might be pitiful. But Mash then starts getting serious, saying that no one laughs at his friend for trying to face a stronger opponent despite being scared. Both Finn and Carpaccio are stunned as Mash starts rapid fire punching Carpaccio to try to outpace his healing. Carpaccio is unimpressed by it until he notices the goddess statue is starting to crack. Mash continues attacking until the goddess statue breaks. He then says that he is now 1,000,000 times stronger than Carpaccio. The chapter finishes with Mash asking Carpaccio if he will stand against him as bravely as Finn did against him. That was the chapter. It was good. Mash being at a slight disadvantage was interesting to see, as it showed he's not immune from being hurt, which is good to know. Other than that, there wasn't much else. Learning about the Master Canes was also good. I wonder if Mash's new wand will end up being one. But overall, I'd give this chapter a B. It was good and continues the intrigue of this arc. Now we're on to Undead Unluck, and the chapter starts with a color page of Juiz and Billy, and it goes to them talking like they were at the end of last week's chapter. Billy then tells his companion to leave, and Juiz asks if he was a part of Billy's mercenary days. Billy says yes, and that he was the first member of Under. He then asks how she knew where he was, and she says that it's where Winter was. She continues saying that she assumed Burn is effective against Winter, so he would be able to kill it whenever he wanted. She adds that he prioritized the arc over the reward, meaning he is holding Winter hostage, so that he can make a trade with them, and she predicts what that deal would be, which is basically he defeats Winter and they trade the round table for the arc. He then asks if she's there to make a deal, but she says that she's there to talk, which the two of them do a lot in this chapter, and asks if he will rejoin the Union. He asks if that's possible. She thinks so, since they are after the same thing, and then she explains that the artifacts are made by God. Billy says that he didn't know that and asks why she kept it from them and how she came to know about that. She says that it was info that can only be gained by writing Arc, and that she never said because she was keeping the Arc a secret. He wants to know more, and she explains that the Arc has reached its limit and that can only make one more trip back, meaning the next time they fail, they lose. He then asks a few more questions before asking why she didn't tell any of them the truth and to take the burn all on her own. She says that one other person knew, and that person tried to kill her. We then see that she knew why Victor was trying to kill her, and that he thought she was doing all of this for him, but she was doing it for herself, because she wanted to see the person she loved smile. She continues saying that she'll tell him everything she can because his betrayal opened her eyes. She says that he may be more qualified to go to the next loop with his powers, but the current loop is useful, with Fuko being their one hope of killing God. She then asks if he's willing to join and bet on Fuko, but he refuses and gets a cube thing from his companion. He gives the cube to Burn, who is just ahead at that point, and it grows to its normal monstrous size. He then tells her that them not working together is how they will kill God, and nothing will change his mind. She prepared for this and does the same thing to Spoil, who she had in her jacket. She also says she still believes in Billy, and the chapter ends as the two of them are about to fight, with the Umas in the background doing the same, with Spoil taunting Burn. That's the chapter. It was good, very dialogue heavy with some interesting reveals, such as the artifacts are made by God and the Ark only has one more trip in it, also bringing some interesting possibilities with Umas being treated like giant Pokemon, which would make for some even more fun fights down the line if they kept up with it. But overall, I'd give that chapter a B. It was good, as it let us meet Juiz and Billy, showing us some more of their character and their goals. So, those were the more heavily recap chapters. Now I'm just going to go and briefly talk about the other titles that I read each week. Jujutsu Kaisen, chapter 141. It was a good chapter as always, with amazing fights, and it seems as though Sukuna is up to something again, which isn't a bad thing, I guess, in terms of the hype of the chapter, and I would give that chapter a B. Next, The Elusive Samurai, chapter 7. It was a good chapter, and the art style of the manga as a whole is very interesting. We then see a new foe is introduced, and as well as a new game of Hide from the Demon, and thus a new arc. I'd give that chapter a B. Sakamoto Days, chapter 14, a great chapter where we see that things could be heating up soon with Sakamoto's old friends showing up and causing problems. I'd give that chapter an A. Nine Dragons Ball Parade, chapter 4, a good chapter, and the manga overall is pretty fun so far, as the gang tries to recruit their newest member, or their first new member. I'd give it a C. I Tell C, chapter 6, a great chapter, as we see one hell of a plot twist that I'm hoping leads to a long series, and it goes for quite some time. I'd give that chapter an A. Phantom Seer, chapter 26, a good chapter with the battle continuing between the shamans and the puppet master. I'd give it a B. And Spy Family, chapter 42, fun chapter of Anya being cute. I'd give it a B. So that's everything for this week. I thought all the chapters were pretty good. Let me know what you thought of the chapters and if this format is any good. This video will most likely be later than I want it to be, but I'm still trying to see what works. And so if you enjoyed this video, please leave a like, and as always, thank you for watching.